She mopped floors like it was penance. Head down, back bent, no complaints. For 8 years, Melba Jackson was just the janitor at Langley Air Force Base. Quiet, invisible, forgettable. Most of the young officers didn't even know her name. They just stepped around her mop bucket like she was part of the furniture. But every so often, someone noticed something strange. The way she moved, too sharp, too precise. The way she stood when a jet roared overhead like she felt it. One young airman swore he saw her tear up watching a fighter take off. Another caught her sketching a detailed schematic of an F-22 on the back of a cleaning schedule. Still, no one asked questions. Until the day everything went wrong. Langley scrambled all personnel after a malfunction grounded a pilot mid-mission. Communications dropped. The backup never launched. Panic rippled through the base. A fully armed Raptor sat idle on the tarmac, and there was no one cleared to fly it. That's when Melba Jackson spoke. "I can fly it." The room went silent. Some laughed. Others stared. The colonel almost had her escorted out until she said her call sign, Voodoo. That name rang like a bell no one had heard in years. Now the questions wouldn't stop. Who was this woman? Why had a decorated black female fighter pilot disappeared from the skies and reappeared behind a mop? What had happened to bury her in plain sight? As she climbed into the cockpit, calm, steady, terrifyingly competent, she wasn't a janitor anymore. She was someone else. And nobody watching that runway could look away. What made her vanish from the cockpit in the first place? And why did she finally step forward? What was she hiding, and what was the Air Force trying to forget? The answers start where most stories end, at the moment a woman who had been erased for nearly a decade took control of a billion-dollar jet and forced the world to see her. And just as the wheels lifted from the ground and the sky opened up to her again, someone inside the control tower whispered, "She's not supposed to be alive." They used to call her Voodoo because she flew like the laws of physics didn't apply. Melba Jackson was once a rising star in the U.S. Air Force, one of the first black female pilots to qualify for combat missions in an F-22. She trained harder, flew longer, and scored higher than most of her male counterparts. But even with all that, she wasn't bulletproof. Not in the sky. And definitely not on the ground. Her last official flight was 8 years ago, over Kandahar. She went dark for 13 minutes during a recon run. No comms, no data, no heartbeat on the radar. When she came back on, she didn't offer answers. Just a firm report, mission complete. But something had changed. She looked shaken. Distant. Command started asking questions she wouldn't answer. And then came the rumors. They said she disobeyed a direct order. That she turned the jet where it wasn't supposed to go. That she saw something she shouldn't have. Within weeks, her clearance was pulled. They grounded her indefinitely. No hearing. No explanation. Melba didn't fight it. She packed up her wings and disappeared, except she didn't go far. She applied for a custodial position right there at Langley. Started sweeping the same hangars where she once trained. Started cleaning the floors under jets she used to command. It was like she chose to live among the ghosts. Some say she was hiding. Others say she was watching. Either way, no one pushed. Not until the system failed and someone had to fly that mission. Now everyone wanted answers. Where's she been all this time? Why didn't she come forward sooner? Can we even trust her? But inside the cockpit, Melba didn't flinch. Her fingers moved across the console like muscle memory. The way she called out airspeed and elevation, it was like she never left. And as she lifted off the tarmac and disappeared into the clouds, the colonel watching her muttered, "She's flying like she's chasing something." Because she was. No one else knew what happened over Kandahar. No one else had seen what she saw. But whatever it was, it had kept her grounded. And now, after 8 long years, Melba Jackson was finally going back up to finish what she'd started. But when her transponder dropped off radar again, people started to panic. Not because they feared she failed, but because some remembered what happened the last time she went dark. The air control tower tried to regain contact for 6 minutes. No reply. No transponder ping. Just static and the growing tension of a room full of officers who had underestimated the janitor. Colonel Ramirez stared at the radar, fists clenched. He'd signed the order to ground Melba Jackson 8 years ago. And now she was back in the air, unauthorized, unaccounted for, and headed straight toward restricted airspace. But he didn't stop her. Maybe he couldn't. She knew those codes. The comms tech said quietly. Nobody briefed her. How did she know the override launch sequence? Ramirez didn't answer. Because deep down he had a guess. One he didn't want to say out loud. Meanwhile, on the ground, Whispers spread like wildfire. Young pilots who had mocked the janitor now huddled around screens, watching the jet she flew. Their jet. Pull off maneuvers they hadn't even mastered in training. Some were awestruck. Others were uneasy. She shouldn't be up there, one muttered. No, another replied. We shouldn't be down here. Back in the air, Melba flew like someone chasing a ghost. Every turn brought her closer to the spot on the map she had marked long ago. A place that officially didn't exist. A no-fly zone even senior pilots avoided. It was the same airspace she'd vanished into 8 years ago. Flashbacks hit like turbulence. A younger Melba, breathing heavy in her helmet. Static. Then something in the sky. A shape that didn't belong. Not enemy. Not friendly. Not human. She'd never reported it. Couldn't. They would have grounded her even faster. Maybe worse. But someone else had seen it. And someone in the upper ranks had made sure that part of the mission record disappeared. Now in her jet, flying solo toward that same stretch of air, Melba wasn't just chasing what she saw. She was chasing the truth. Back at Langley, Ramirez pulled up her sealed file. He scanned the incident log, the redacted lines, the classified annotations. Then quietly, he opened an encrypted message from a name only a few dared to speak aloud. If she breaches the perimeter again, we don't intervene. His mouth went dry. Melba Jackson wasn't just a pilot with something to prove. She was a loose end. And someone wanted her to disappear for good this time. Meanwhile, a young maintenance tech named Reggie, who had befriended Melba over the years, stumbled on an old tape she left behind in her janitor's closet. A VHS labeled Voodoo 3:47 a.m. He hesitated, then hit play. What he saw made him drop the remote. A grainy cockpit recording. Melba's voice steady. Her breathing fast. Then her scream. Not fear. Warning. And in the final frame, lights in the clouds that moved like nothing made by man. The clouds were thick now. Heavy. Static buzzed through the cockpit like interference or something trying to break through. Melba gripped the throttle. Her breath slowed. Eyes locked on a point in the sky that didn't exist on the map. But she remembered it. Every night. Every dream. Same light. Same silence. Altitude 46,000. Coordinates locked. No turning back. Back at Langley, the radar tech stood up. Sir, something's in the air with her. Colonel Ramirez shot him a glare. A drone? No, sir. Not one of ours. No signal. Just presence. A second blip flickered on the screen. Then a third. No call signs. No origin. They moved around Melba's jet in a slow, deliberate arc surrounding her. Ramirez stepped back from the console. Sweat on his brow. They said this wouldn't happen again, they. Who the hell were they? Down in storage, Reggie fast-forwarded through the tape. Static. Then flashes of light. Melba's voice, calm, measured, terrified. They don't want to be seen. But they know we're watching. Then another voice. Male. Muffled. Commanding. If she speaks, we bury her. Got it? Reggie dropped the tape. His hands shook. He ran. He needed to show someone, anyone, but the hallway outside the archive was already blocked. 2 men in dark suits. No insignia. No name tags. No reason to be there. You're not supposed to be in here, one said. Reggie backed away. I was just come with us. They didn't give him a choice. Meanwhile, Melba broke radio silence. Her voice crackled through the tower like a ghost coming home. I see it. Ramirez leaned in. What do you see, Voodoo? A pause. Same shape. Same movement. Same feeling. Then, I'm not alone. Suddenly, the second blip vanished. No signal. No debris. Just gone. Ramirez shouted, pull her back. Now. The room erupted. Orders flying. Code phrases. Encryption keys. Someone reached for the shutdown protocol. Another officer locked the manual override. And then the lights flickered. Not just in the tower. Across the base. In the cockpit, Melba's systems blinked. Her HUD scrambled. For a second, everything went black. No altitude. No heading. No stars. Just her. And them. She whispered, they remember me. Then the jet shook. Once. Hard. Like something passed through it. Back at Langley, the classified file Ramirez tried to close popped open on screen. Line after line of redacted text began revealing themselves. Project Voodoo subject. Melba Jackson status. Unresolved anomaly below that. A photo appeared. Grainy. Infrared. Melba's last flight. A triangle of lights above her jet. No engines. No exhaust. Impossible speed. Ramirez's blood ran cold. We were never supposed to open this again. Suddenly, the transmission cut. Her jet vanished from radar. No explosion. No descent. Just disappeared. And in the silence that followed, one word blinked on the control tower monitor. Left behind in the wake of the data wipe. Returning, there was no countdown. No warning. Just a dull thunk inside the jet. Like the air had collapsed in on itself. Melba blinked. The clouds were gone. So was the storm. So was the sky. She floated in eerie stillness. The F-22 suspended in a black void. Stars hanging in the distance like they'd been painted there. No gravity. No time. Just silence. Then her HUD flared back to life. Except it wasn't hers. New symbols, alien characters, mapped themselves across the glass. Her instruments weren't measuring altitude anymore. They were scanning her. Below, Langley's control tower was in chaos. "We lost her again," Ramirez growled. "Scramble search units. Full sweep." But the room had changed. Half the monitors now showed a live feed they didn't activate. Footage from Melba's jet except from outside the plane. Something was watching her, streaming it directly into their systems. A voice came from the feed. Clear. Calm. Mechanical. Subject identified, Voodoo. The colonel's heart skipped. "They've had this the whole time. They never left," someone whispered. Then a new file auto-opened on the main terminal, one not even Ramirez had clearance to access. Project Sundial Operation, Host Recovery Target, M. Jackson Phase, Integration? Meanwhile, Reggie sat handcuffed in a black van just off base, panicked but alert. The tape was gone. But the voice he heard on it, that cold order to silence Melba, it hadn't been military. It had been private. Contractors. Outside the chain of command. Which meant this wasn't about national security anymore. It was about containment. And someone was cleaning house. Back in the void, Melba stared ahead. The lights returned, orbiting her again. Then a face formed in the light, not human. Not alien. Something between. Not speaking, but communicating. She saw flashes, her flight 8 years ago, the object she encountered, the moment she blacked out. But then something new. She hadn't just witnessed something impossible. She had merged with it. The shock hit her like cold water. They didn't follow her back. They sent her back. And the deeper truth. She hadn't been grounded because she saw something dangerous. She was the danger. Her voice came over the comms again, but different. No static. No fear. Measured. Alien, almost. "You were never protecting them from me," she said. "You were protecting me from remembering." Ramirez collapsed into a chair. "We didn't bury her. We tried to reboot her. She's not a pilot anymore. No one could finish the thought. Reggie's van jolted to a stop. A figure opened the door. Not a soldier. A woman in civilian clothes. Melba's sister. "She left me something," she said. "Before all this. I didn't understand it then. But I think I'm supposed to help her finish what they tried to erase." "Finish what?" Reggie asked. The woman looked straight at him. "Bring it all back." And at 47,000 feet, floating just outside what Earth calls airspace, Melba Jackson powered down the jet. Not because she needed to, but because she didn't anymore. The lights surrounded her. The screen at Langley went black. A single message pulsed. Phase 2 confirmed. Everything was still. Silent. Inside the cockpit, Melba sat motionless. But something in her eyes had changed, like a door had finally opened and everything behind it came pouring in. She remembered. Not just Kandahar. Not just the void. She remembered the transfer. How it had slipped into her when she passed through the light. How it had hidden itself in her, curled quiet in the folds of her mind, waiting. For years it had pulsed beneath her skin, unseen. Until today. Until they forced her to fly again. Now, the thing that entered her was no longer hiding. It was her. Down at Langley, the base scrambled to lock down systems. But it was too late. The network was already compromised. Security firewalls collapsed. Old projects reappeared, Project Voodoo, Operation Sundial, and one final file, Merge Protocol, Phase 2. In the corner of the room, Ramirez just stared. Numb. She was never supposed to survive it. Suddenly, a low hum filled the tower. Power flickered. Then a projection, 3D, shimmering, pulsed to life above the war room table. Melba. But not as she was. Her image flickered between her flight suit and something more, her eyes glowing, her skin traced with faint lines of light like circuitry etched into flesh. Her voice echoed in every speaker. They called me a threat. An anomaly. But I was the bridge. Bridge to what? Ramirez whispered. To what comes next. The lights went out. In the blackness, every screen lit with a single image, a world map. Dozens of blinking markers. Not locations. Hosts. Melba wasn't the only one. Back in orbit or wherever she was now, Melba rose from her seat. The cockpit canopy dissolved. Not shattered, not opened. Just disappeared. No helmet. No oxygen. Still breathing. She stepped forward, barefoot, onto a platform of light that formed under her feet, stretching outward toward the starlit figure before her. The being didn't speak. It didn't need to. She understood now. The memories weren't visions. They were instructions. This wasn't about aliens invading Earth. It was Earth evolving. And she was first. Melba turned back once, looking at her jet, now tiny, irrelevant, an old machine meant for wars that didn't matter anymore. She had outgrown it. And then she vanished into the light. On Earth, Reggie and Melba's sister stood on a rooftop watching the sky. A shimmer moved across the stars, barely visible, like a ripple in glass. No sound. No ships. Just something vast watching. Preparing. Reggie whispered, "Is she coming back?" "She never left," her sister said. Then handed him something. Melba's old badge. He turned it over. On the back, engraved in tiny letters that were never there before, Phase 3 begins with you. Weeks passed. At Langley, things slowly returned to normal. The base resumed operations. Planes flew. Pilots trained. Files were buried again, this time deeper. No one spoke of Melba Jackson. Not officially. Her disappearance was classified as an unauthorized flight with unknown outcome. Case closed. But those who had seen the sky that night remembered. Colonel Ramirez was one of them. He retired quietly, spending his final days writing a report no one asked for and few would ever read. In it, he didn't call Melba a pilot or a soldier or even a subject. He called her a turning point. The moment humanity glimpsed something beyond war and borders and fear. We didn't lose her, he wrote. We were never ready to follow her. Reggie was released and reassigned officially for security breaches, but off the record, he was watched. What they didn't realize was that Reggie wanted them to watch. Because now he was watching back. He spent every spare moment decoding the data Melba left behind. The badge. The VHS. The strange pulses in radar logs that no one else noticed. He began seeing patterns in the noise. A signal. A message. And he wasn't alone. Across the globe, others began coming forward, pilots, engineers, scientists. People who had experienced something they couldn't explain and were told to forget. Now they were remembering. One by one. As for Melba's sister, Angela, she moved back to their hometown in Georgia. Took over their childhood home. Planted a garden. Simple life. Quiet. But she kept one room untouched. Melba's old room. And on the windowsill, facing the stars, sat Melba's helmet. Every night, Angela sat by the window and looked up. And some nights, just sometimes, one of the stars would blink out for a moment. Like someone walking in front of a distant light. Angela would smile and whisper, still flying. The world never learned the full truth. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But the truth wasn't the point anymore. Melba Jackson didn't go to war. She didn't go rogue. She didn't disappear. She transcended. She became what the world tried to contain. And in doing so, she made a new path quietly, defiantly, like she always had. The janitor who swept hangars became the signal that change had already arrived. Not with thunder or fire, but with light. Memory. Evolution. She wasn't erased. She became the blueprint. And maybe that's the lesson we leave with. What the world throws away, the future might be waiting to claim. So don't look away from the overlooked. Don't underestimate the quiet ones. And if you ever see a flash in the sky that makes no sense, don't dismiss it. Ask yourself, what if the future already walked among us and just needed a reason to rise? Call to action. If Melba's story moved you, share it. Not just the twist. Not just the mystery. But the message. Someone out there may be waiting for a sign that they're not alone or that they still matter. Because forgotten doesn't mean gone. Sometimes it just means waiting to be seen.